Hey everyone, so on this episode Make It with Calvin, we're going to be talking about this. It's my custom weathering powders organizer and take you through a very condensed version of the process of how this was created. So let's dive into it. Now, obviously, if you've watched any of my previous videos where I've done work on my model train projects, obviously I'm a huge fan of using weathering powders to really bring the models to life. It really showed off on the roof of the Banta tool car where I was able to make it look like there was a bunch of dust that had built up over time. Love how that turned out. So the point behind this is it's an easier and more organized way to keep all my powders. And one time, I forget if I was working on or off camera, I had I believe it was the desert sand one actually spill out. And generally speaking, one of these weathering powder containers holds, maybe, I'm not going to say a lifetime supply, but a whole heck of a lot of powder. And spilling it out was not a very fun experience. Thankfully, I was able to get about 95% of the spilled stuff back in, but it still made a mess, and I figured we can do a little better than this. So that's where the holder comes into place. Now, with a lot of stuff, there was an initial prototype, and this is what I come up with. It works great. It was honestly over-engineered. I was thinking at the time that I needed to put some braces in to prevent these parts from snapping or being overly weak, being this is just 1/8 inch MDF or hardboard, depending upon what you want to call it, that I would get down when I'd visit my family, either at DIY Center, that's predominantly where I'd get it, or at Ace if I couldn't make it out to DIY Center. Point was, I wanted to make this thing tough, but this one was actually, I think, a little overdone. That being said, though, it's still perfectly functional, but I also wanted to make this so if I made this for others, they'd have an easier time putting it together. That's where I came up with this, where I've got the sides higher and it helps hold everything a little more square during the gluing process. And I also eliminated the braces underneath there. It wasn't needed. Now, when it comes to the back, on both of them, I did make it so that if you wanted to hang this on a wall or something, it had that capability. Am I planning on doing that? Maybe or maybe not, but I figured better to have it and not need it than need it and totally destroy what you have in the process of trying to build it in there. Alternatively, I have thought about making an adapter so I could attach this to pegboard. I still, though, love the convenience of hauling it around, so time will tell, but that's neither here nor there. Now, one other thing I did was I made some openings so you could drop in some paintbrushes, although I will say I might not have been as accurate on the hole size as I thought, because it turns out paintbrush handles seem to be in every possible size. So that wasn't super important, but at least I can hold my nice big fluffy brush, and this one, at least I know where it's at. The main thing is I don't like using stained brushes with powders and vice versa, so they don't get cross-contaminated, or I'm not using a wet brush, and you get the point. Not good things happen. Now, when it came to actually designing this, I just knocked it out pretty quickly over in Fusion 360. I just created a sketch. Only reason why I would extrude the sketch is so that way I could visualize everything at its proper thickness, pull it out, and then draw in the trays, and then just copy those down. One thing I will say is I know a lot of you are going to go, why'd you laser cut this? Why didn't you 3D print it? And the very simple thing is time. I can laser cut one of these in about, we'll just say about 5 minutes for easy math over at my job using a 45-watt Epilog laser. Really appreciate the fact that they let me use the thing for projects like this. It's very handy. But I cannot 3D print this in 5 minutes. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, why don't you print it in pieces? I could do that instead of one whole piece, but just in reality, if I had no access to a laser cutter, I would probably print the thing in pieces and take the time to assemble it. But because I do, it's way, way, way faster that way. Now, the other nice thing is about it being laser cut is the fact that I was able to knock out a whole heap load, and I'm talking a whole heap load of spare parts. I had some scrap wood that wasn't going to get used for anything otherwise, so I figured why not cut out a few extras. And if there was some demand for this, awesome. If not, I figured I could probably find these containers somewhere and use this for organizing other stuff. So regardless of the outcome, those were going to get used in one way, shape, or form. Now that leads into the other question. Can you purchase this? And the answer is yes, although I still have not, as of the time of filming, figured out a price, how I'm going to do it. But if you are genuinely interested in one of these, and I should note this only, to my knowledge, fits the Doc O'Brien weathering powders that you can get from Micromark. But if you do genuinely want one of these, please contact me using the email on my channel page. And by that point, hopefully I will have figured out a price for these. And also, I will look into offering the plans for these on Etsy if there is a demand for that as well, in case you have a laser cutter or you want to cut your own. So I hope that helps kind of guide you through some of the thought process on this. I am focusing right now on some organizing projects. Another one that I am looking at is I recently picked up an Amazon Basics model paint organizer that didn't exactly fit the can sizes that I had, paint bottle sizes, that I had in mind, but that doesn't mean it's not totally useful. And I'm kind of in that, do I design my own, do I make my own organizer stage? I'm still trying to even figure out what paints I'm going to use. So those are all things for the future, and I'll see you here next time on Make It with Calvin with maybe some more organizing projects that'll help me get more other projects done. See you guys later.